The real reason space smells like steak. If you're an astronomy nerd like me, you've probably heard that space smells like steak. When astronauts return from spacewalks, they say that they can smell the familiar smell of fresh meat. But why? The explanation was this. The smell comes from the air conducts of the ship and not the space itself. That was what the public was given, but the real reason is a lot darker. Too dark for most humans to handle. Before I tell you what I know, I'll explain how I found out. I was an astronomy nerd, so when I moved to school with an observatory, I spent every break there. That's where I met my best friend. Let's call him Luke. Luke was a conspiracy theorist. He would always talk about how the government is hiding aliens. I found his theories interesting, so I talked to him often. That was 7 months ago. Last week, Luke told me to come over. I didn't want to go because of the pandemic, but he insisted, saying that he has something important to tell me, and that it can be said in the message. So I went over to see what he was talking about. When we got to his room, he told me he had hacked NASA. I thought he was joking, until I looked at his computer. On the computer, there was a page called Alien Civilizations, Milky Way. The page was so long, there wasn't even a scroll bar, so we had to use the arrow keys to navigate the page. I was both horrified and excited. There was so much information, but by viewing it, we were committing a crime. Luke, of course, was talking about how he wasn't crazy, and aliens do exist. However, as I scrolled through the page, I saw that there all the alien species were labeled extinct, and causes of extinction varied. There were thousands of intelligent species, and those were just the ones discovered. Most species had a tradition of burning the criminals and throwing them into space. The painful execution was used as a deterrent for crime. After colonizing all the lifeless systems, some of them started to move to planets with life. A movement was formed in order to stop colonizing planets with life, because the colonization was harming the local life forms. All the activists were considered criminals, so they were burned in space. A civil war broke out, with thousands of planets, moons, asteroids and ships being burned, as that was the most painful and dishonorable death in their culture. Eventually, the war ended, and there were only 221 billion survivors, scattered across the galaxy. Their previous homes were uninhabitable, and the other planets were already inhabited. They lived in their ships until life support shut down. In total, there were 983 trillion estimated dead. The particles from their burned corpses traveled through the galaxy, preserved in the void of space, forever fresh. After reading that, I couldn't bring myself to speak. I got up and left, but before I walked out the door, Luke said, "If I go missing, remember this." For the next few days, Luke and I messaged each other, talking about random stuff. But 2 days ago, he went missing. After Luke's disappearance, I started noticing strange vehicles in our neighborhood. Today, there was someone knocking on my door. I blocked it, and I'm currently typing this from my basement. I can hear them knocking on my door. If I make it out of this, I will update tomorrow. Now you know why space smells like steak. If I go missing, remember this.